On more than one occasion, when it comes to matters in the idol industry, I'll tend to side with the management side. And I think this is because I've worked most of my life managing people. I don't think the general fan, aka the general population, understands what it's like to deal with the hiring and firing of employees. So if you don't mind humoring me, these are some of my feelings on the subject. First off, people are incredibly fickle. There are a multitude of reasons why a person will get a job, and in turn there are a multitude of reasons why they would want to leave that job. So when you look at something like idols, or in my case, the restaurant industry, you already know that it's not going to be a permanent solution. No one's going to say, hey, I worked at that restaurant for 15 years. And the same goes with being an idol. Largely, these jobs are transitional jobs. They're used as stepping stones to get to something bigger and better. You'll generally also see this in the age range. Most of my employees are in the college age, just working part-time until they finish school. And the same is with idols, except for in a different age bracket. However, the problem is that you still spend time training your staff. When employees or potential idols come in, they're basically blank sheets of paper. And you've got to spend time and money filling those sheets out until they're ready to handle the tasks that are required for their job. So it's an investment. You understand it's not a permanent solution, but you still want to get out of it as much as possible. So in my particular case, the risk is a lot lower. I have literally hired people who worked for one day and then didn't show up the next day. Your guess why is as good as mine, but it probably ranged from something like they didn't like the job, they thought it was too much work, they realized they don't like dealing with people, or sometimes they get a better opportunity. But like I said, the risk for me is pretty low. I lose out on maybe the time spent training them and the loss of a potential employee. But when it comes to the idol industry, it's way more than that. I think most times, before an idol is even introduced, dozens of hours are spent preparing them. First, there's the look. Then there's learning the songs or singing lessons. Learning the choreography plays into all this. There's also costumes that need to be made, and also any promotional material that needs to be printed. So a huge investment of time and money is involved. And you've got to remember that these are not just fickle people, but young teenagers. When I was a teenager, I couldn't make up my mind. And oftentimes I'd go back and forth on things. So it's an incredibly difficult thing to manage. As a reactionary measure, I think that's why you saw these companies start writing these idol contracts, to give them at least some sort of culpability if someone decides to not uphold their end of the bargain. But ultimately, it's still impossible to control somebody. And an employee can quit at any time, just like an idol can quit at any time. And it doesn't matter about contracts or anything. If they don't physically want to get on stage, it's not like you can make them. So that's why I tend to at least consider management side in these situations. I think every scenario is different and you should take all the evidence before you jump to any conclusions. I just wanted to point out that a lot of times idols are not as helpless as we make them out to be. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.